In Kazuo Ishiguro's masterpiece, The Remains of the Day, the aging butler Stevens sits alone on a seaside pier at twilight, looking back on a lifetime of service. For decades, he was the dedicated, invisible instrument of a great estate. He had no personal voice, no room for private grief, and no space for his own desires. He was simply the flawless conduit through whom an entire house ran. But in his old age, as the era of the great English estates crumbles around him, he finds himself asking a question that eventually comes for all of us. What remains when the work that has defined your life comes to an end? Welcome back to Torah in 7. I'm Bela Olidort, and this week we begin the book of Devarim, the last of the 5 books of the Torah. The book opens on the plains of Moab. Across the Jordan lies the land Moshe has spent 40 years leading the people toward. He can see it, but he knows he will never enter it. God has already told him, "This is the end of your journey." There's a profound poignancy to this moment, one that touches anyone who's ever had to step back from a role they gave their life to and watch the future begin to unfold without them. And so Moshe begins to speak. The opening words of the book signal that something has changed. It's not the usual Vayidaber Hashem el Moshe, and God spoke to Moshe, but Eile hadvarim asher diber Moshe. These are the words that Moshe spoke. The book is also called Mishneh Torah or Deuteronomy, which comes from the Greek Deuteronomion, meaning the repetition of the law or the second law. But it's not merely a repetition, it's a restatement by Moshe, who doesn't simply quote earlier material. He interprets it, emphasizes different points, omits some details, and adds others. Many mitzvot appear here in a new form or with new applications. The book is therefore both review and reinterpretation. But it's more than that. Listen carefully to what Moshe chooses to recall. He remembers crying about the crushing burden of leadership. Echa esa levadi torchachem umasachem v'rifchem. How can I bear alone your troubles, your burdens, and your quarrels? And he returns to the appointment of judges, to the tragedy of the spies, to the victories over Sichon and Og. And then he inserts himself into the story. Gam bi tanaf Hashem biglochem. The Lord was also angry with me because of you. I too shall not enter. So Moshe is not merely recounting Israel's past, he's revisiting his own. It's the memoir of a leader. And anyone who's read a memoir recognizes what's happening. At the end of a life, people don't recount everything. They sift through the decades, returning to the moments that changed them, the failures that still ache, the decisions that shaped who they became. Moshe relives the rawest, most painful moments of his journey. He bears his soul, placing his own grief, his own unfulfilled destiny directly into the narrative. In a way, then, his memories become his final act of leadership. For 40 years, the Torah came from above. God spoke, and Moshe transmitted. It was perfect, and it was divine, and it was external. But once the people cross the Jordan, everything changes. They'll no longer live surrounded by clouds of glory or sustained by manna. They will have to discover how God's eternal words speak to the messy, unpredictable complexity of ordinary life. And Moshe begins teaching them how to do that by doing it himself. This is why Reb Tzadok HaKohen of Lublin points to Sefer Devarim as the Shoresh Torah Sheba'al Peh, the very root of the oral Torah, because for the first time, Moshe speaks mipi atzmo, from his own mouth. He doesn't just repeat commandments, he filters the divine will through the raw lens of his own life review, his own disappointments, and his own wounds. He's showing the people that Torah isn't just about logic, it's about taking the divine word and carrying it through the painful reality of human experience. And think about the exquisite irony here. At the very beginning of his mission, standing before the burning bush, Moshe protested, Lo ish dvarim anochi. I'm not a man of words. But 40 years later, the man who began his mission arguing that he was not a man of words ends his life with a book called Words, Devarim. God's Torah had become so deeply woven into him that when he now speaks mipi atzmo, From his own mouth, his own words become Torah. And yet Moshe remains painfully human. He knows his work is ending just as the people's next chapter is about to begin. He knows his life's mission has run its course, and the people will go forward without him. And the question is, what remains? It's a question that most of us come to ask at some point. It's the parent who realizes that their children no longer need them in the same way. It's the veteran teacher who's replaced by fresh faces. It's the CEO who built a business and sees a young generation with new skills but less experience take over the reins. In Kohelet, King Solomon gives voice to that anxiety. I hated all the things I had toiled for under the sun, he says, because I must leave them to the one who comes after me, and who knows whether he will be wise or a fool. Moshe knows that fear. He accepts that his leadership has run its course, but he pleads with God to appoint a leader who will shepherd the people the way he did. Most of us will never lead a nation, but every one of us hopes that even as we are retired and replaced, something of us will remain. The ideals and values we embody over a lifetime, the very things that become identified with our being, are what remain of us. The question is whether they will prove as futile as Stephen's devotion to a crumbling world, or endure like Moshe's words, echoing into the future. We open the book of Devarim as the people stand at the cusp of a new beginning, but for the man who led them there, it's the waning of the hour. And what he leaves them with in his last days is Torat Moshe. His words are now theirs to carry across the Jordan and for all eternity. That's Torah in 7 for Parshat Devarim. If you'd like to go deeper, there's a companion study guide with Hebrew terms, sources, and additional readings for further learning at torahin7.substack.com. If you'd like to dedicate an episode in honor or memory of someone, you can email me at torahin7@gmail.com. Thank you for listening. Shabbat Shalom.